just stick with it or find something else. Hey you guys, welcome back to the channel. In this video today we're going to be discussing Gorgio Armani My Way. I have the regular version and I have the intense version. But before we hop into those two comparisons, if you're new here, please subscribe, join the family. We talk about everything here. Also, I wanted to mention, if you're not following my socials, girl, go to my LTK, which is like to know. I post a lot of fashion stuff on there, like clothing, outfits, and things like that. Also beauty and everything. It's a little sprinkled up in there, and I've been actively posting. So also my Instagram and my TikTok, I do post on there too. So if you want to follow those, you guys look into the description box. I have my social media stuff linked below. Also, all items are always linked in the description box, so if I don't mention it, just check the description box, you'll see the item in there. So let's jump into the video. So I have two travel sizes. I've been into travel sizes lately, so I can actually get some good use out of them. On my left side, I have My Way Gorgio Armani. This is the original, and as you can see, I've been getting a lot of good use out of this. Okay, I'm like halfway through. On my right side, I have Gorgio Armani My Way Intense. And this is fairly newer to the collection. You can see I did get a little bit of use out of it. So that way I can discuss it with you guys. So the big question is, what's the difference between the two? So let's introduce the fragrances. These are florals, okay? When you smell Gorgio Armani off top, it is a floral fragrance type of deal. You may smell some sweetness in there, but we'll get into that, all right? So the Gorgio Armani My Way is considered a white floral, tuberose, kind of citrusy vibe. So I'm gonna put the notes up on the screen. The top notes are orange blossom, bergamot. You have your middle notes of tuberose and Indian jasmine, and in the base notes you have Madagascar vanilla, white musk, and Virginian cedar. Reading those notes, if we only go by the notes, you're gonna just think that it's probably super floral. But what I can say is the vanilla gives it a little bit of sweetness, but the responsible note for the sweetness is a tuberose. Believe it or not, tuberose can lean very floral or very like a bubblegummy smell. If you ever heard of, I think it's Mancera Velvet Vanilla, that one is so beautiful. It's not even, it's a sweet fragrance and it's tuberose driven, but it smells like bubblegum. So you would not correlate that with a floral, but that is a floral fragrance. It's more of a sweet, if you don't know anything about notes, it's more of a sweet fragrance at the nose, and it comes off like a bubblegumish kind of smell, but it's definitely a well-rounded floral. With the Gorgio Armani My Way, this one is definitely floral. If you know your notes, you're gonna say, okay, that's tuberose. It is heavily driven in the tuberose department. The bergamot in the beginning, I guess you can say when you spray it, you do get that fresh burst of it. So that's what kind of makes it like, it lifts it up and makes it more like appropriate perfume that you can wear on warmer days, because it is a floral, and usually florals are good for like springtime, summertime. I mean, perfumes are good all year round, but I do like to categorize which ones I wear during which times of the year, because I have so many, so just so I can get use out of all of them. But with this one, I do feel like this is a good fragrance to use in the springtime and also leaning toward the summer because of that fresh citrus in the beginning. The tuberose stays very consistent, and when it dries down, you do get that vanilla, and that also helps it. But like I say, this is a more floral, sweet driven tuberose. This is not like a very prominent, well-defined tuberose where it's like rich. It's rich in smell, but as far as your purest tuberoses are not sweet, not in my opinion. They have a more punch to them, like a floral punch. Like for example, BDK Parfums Imperial, I think it's tuberose Imperial. That one is like really sharp. It's a sharp tuberose, whereas this one is a little bit more sweet. If you're looking for something floral, but you also want it to be a little bit sweet every day, the tuberose in here is very, very strong. So you have to be into, you know, note driven type of fragrances to really like this or appreciate this one. But if you love tuberose and this is kind of like your basic one, it's not doing too much, it's strictly just what it is. It's a nice fresh opening of citrus with that tuberose smell, then those florals playing around in there. You're gonna mostly get tuberose, but it's a sweeter tuberose, and it dries down to a nice little vanilla, which grounds it throughout the day. So moving into My Way Intense, this is supposed to be the more grounded version of the first one that I just mentioned. The top notes are orange blossom, Blossom, Bitter Orange. Middle notes is Indian Tuberose and Tuberose. And the base notes is Madagascar Vanilla and Sandalwood. Now that sandalwood in there, I feel like adding that note really defines this fragrance right here. And the reason why I say that is because in the original one, it has cedar. Cedar and sandalwood are two different things. Depending on how you mix them, I prefer sandalwood. And the reason why I like sandalwood more, a smell of course, but it's just, it could be driven in a way where like I've smelled sandalwood that was creamy, that was sweet. It just gave it, it wasn't like so woody. It just gave it a more sweet touch to it, if you will. So with the sandalwood in the base of this one, I'm gonna keep it all the way 100 with y'all. This one is My Way Intense. It's not that far from the original. Literally, it almost smells the same. I'm not gonna hold you guys. Like, they are very similar, but what I can say is intense versions tend to amp up notes, either make them more prominent or add something else in there to kind of drive it in a different direction. This one right here kind of makes it a little bit more prominent. It doesn't change the fragrance to a completely different fragrance. If you have purchased My Way Intense, the original, well, if you have purchased My Way, the original, I kind of feel like if you're getting worn out of the original version, go in with the intense version. You're not going to be disappointed by any means. You know how like our noses can get accustomed or used to a fragrance and then it's not doing it for us anymore. That's the only thing I would advise you to go into the intense version direction. That's, I mean, unless you just prefer, like if cedar, like if you like woody fragrances with cedar, you can really tell the difference in the woods. If cedar is a problem for you, sandalwood is in this one. And vice versa. If you don't care for sandalwood, then go with the cedar. And that's if you could pick up on notes like really well and you decipher the two and you really don't want that, you know, base note. But other than that, the structure of the fragrances are kind of similar. If you don't have any of them, these are kind of like the tips I'm trying to like throw out there, that this intense one smells a little bit more like something you would want to wear, you know, evening to night, whereas that bergamot in the opening of the original does make it a little bit more fresher when you first spray it. So in that original version, the orange blossom and the bergamot does give it a little bit more of a fresher like first spray. So you're gonna be smelling that throughout the day and it kind of makes it feel a little bit more day appropriate on hotter days or warmer weather. Whereas in the second version, you do have orange blossom, but you also have bitter orange in the beginning. So it kind of just, the bitter orange, I feel like lifts up the orange blossom a little bit more without it making too fresh, but it will keep it sweet and kind of like a freshy in the beginning. But toward the middle notes, you're just getting all tuberose when it comes to the intense version. Whereas in the original version, you had a little bit of that jasmine, so it gave it a little twist. Going back to the beginning, I do feel that the original version is a little more fresher in my opinion, and it dries down to that vanilla that's keeping it sweet, but the tuberose that's in here is constructed a little bit more sweeter. Whereas in the My Way Intense version, how they kind of switched out a couple notes, it just made it a little bit more deeper. It's just giving it that kick. So my final thought, if you don't have any of these, then decipher between, are you looking for, like, check out the base, you know what I'm saying? If you want something a little bit more fresher and you don't mind the cedar in the base, go with the original. But if you do love sandalwood and you kind of want something a little bit more sweeter, just a tad bit, they have the same smell. It's just depending on the longevity and how you want it to wear on you throughout the day. Because when you first spray the original, it's more citrusy, a little bit more citrusy than the intense. But if you don't have any of them, then that's where you would kind of decipher which one you want. And I don't think you would go wrong if you get either or. Like if one's not in stock and the other one is, I think you'll like them if you do like florals, tuberose, and things like that. Now, if you have the original version, I do feel that it's no point in going to the intense unless you're tired of, you know, it's growing faint to your nose. You're getting used to it. So it's just like, what can I do? I want a little bit more intensity, because that kind of can happen if you're wearing it every day. If you're not wearing it every day, this will probably last you and do good for you. If you're wearing it every day and you do notice that and it's not as strong to you anymore, you do want a little bit more of a punch, then after you finish your bottle, then I say go ahead and check out the intense version. But if you have the intense version and it does everything for you, stick with it. Don't go back. Go backwards. You know, like some people like to collect fragrances just as well as I do. I mean, I have both of them, but I would say get the original version if you do want something a little bit more lighter, because you feel that the intense version needs to be a little bit more uplifting. But if you feel the intense version needs to have something else in it, or it's not strong enough, it's missing something, don't go backwards. Just stick with it or find something else. So that is my take on Gorgio Armani My Way Intense and the original. I definitely feel they are really decent fragrances. There's nothing complex about it, so it's strictly just a floral and with a few other additive notes that don't stand out as prominent. You're gonna mainly get that tuberose. So definitely check them out if you feel that speaking to you, and leave it in the comments if you do have these or you are planning on buying them. I will leave it in the description box for you guys, so keep that in mind. And until next time, you guys, don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed it, comment and subscribe if you haven't already, and like I said, everything will be in the description box. So I'll see you guys in the next one.